Hello, everyone. Good evening. Today we have with us Royla Fernandez, who is the candidate for Zilla Panchayat election from Benauli constituency. We also have with us our Goa Story, this thing, Goa Story founder, Dev Surabhi, and we are here to discuss the Zilla Panchayat elections. What is it about? Why should people come to vote? And why is Benauli such a hub right now for, you can say, a very uh, controversial constituency, which is always in the news for so many reasons? And starting off, Royla, you would like to share your experience of this election campaign? How has it been, and what are the challenges given this COVID situation right now?
Thank you, Avinash, and thank you for inviting me to this show. Yes, the ZP elections are here finally, but I would say it's not the appropriate time for elections when the entire state is still struggling or battling with COVID, with cases happening every day in hundreds. We are still here waiting for the polls just 12 hours away. The campaign, which started in March, was at a different momentum with a different scenario. The conditions were really favorable, and we hadn't to worry about putting our voters in danger. But towards the later days, when the COVID started picking up, yes, there was fear, and the election commission and the state government called off or postponed the elections for a later date, which now in December they have finally declared, and we are going ahead. Given the current condition where there is Section 144 being imposed, where we stating that COVID reasons for the Section 144, the right way to canvass could not happen. We could not reach out door to door because 8 months is a long period where people definitely have forgotten that there was something called a Zilla election. That fervor of an election has died down, and uh, the entire state actually was in the mood to save Goa from the three disastrous projects. And what the government has done is put an end to our projects, or an attempt to put a hold to the unity among different parties or different organizations, and have put us back on the battlefield, getting the Zilla elections here again. COVID being a concern, uh, yes, we have our constraints, but we try to reach people through social media. Basically, WhatsApp and Facebook was a medium where we have tried to reach our voters. We ask and pray that our voters will maintain the necessary protocols when they come out and vote tomorrow. If we stay home, it would be a different scenario where the right candidate might not be elected. But staying home also means your voice won't be heard. So we request them, please come out and vote and help us get a good mandate.
So, you said that you're using a lot of social media, but what about the old people who don't have access, old and the poor people who don't have access to social media? And what do you say to people who think it may not be safe to actually come out to vote?
Very tricky question, because putting senior citizens, especially to risk, is not something even I would prefer. In fact, when the elections were postponed, I remember making a statement that the elections shouldn't be held until unless the entire state is COVID free. The entire state had to be COVID free, because putting our voters at risk is not what we want. We want to contest elections, we want to represent people, is because we want to serve them and not to put them into trouble or put them into the danger of COVID. But the government, our state government has gone ahead with it, and we can't help. But at the same time, through phone calls and through few visits to homes, we have tried to awaken the people about the elections which are going to be conducted. And in fact, in our social media and our messages also, we tried to tell them to at least wear a mask when they come, which is required, and to maintain social distancing. The rest
Okay.
we leave up to the authorities, which will definitely be maintaining the necessary SOPs at the polling booth.
Yeah, because today it was on the paper. It had come that the 100 people got COVID who had attended a wedding, and
Okay.
there the doctor, dean in charge of this COVID operations, he said that if things like this happen, we will be overwhelmed, and this will be a second wave in Goa, and the hospital beds will run short. So I guess this is a real test for the government as to how they will manage to execute this, and more importantly, it is also a test for candidates like you and many others who I've seen in past elections that many parties and candidates organize vehicles for people to come, especially the senior citizens. So those vehicles should not be a source of spreading
Transmission.
the virus. That is something that I guess the state election commission has to consider. So, but moving on to our first topic, why are we having what is this Zilla Panchayat? What does it have to do with 75th Amendment, 73rd Amendment? Uh, Most people think that Zilla Panchayats are toothless. Why are you fighting this Zilla Panchayats election?
First and foremost, since I served in the panchayat in the last 10 years as a panch member, we saw that we were the grassroots. As an elected representative in the Gram Panchayat, we were the grassroots, and we had intermediary bodies, including the BDO or the director, which we had to report to or to coordinate. But there was no devolution of powers there, and we see that even at the Zilla Panchayat, there is no devolution of powers. But also at the same time, I would like to take this opportunity to be in the Zilla so that we can strive and fight for the devolution. I am a part of the Goa Forum of Panchayats along with Mr. Joseph Vas, who's also a Congress candidate from Rashol, and the president is Mr. Joseph Sukwera. And through this forum, we are fighting for devolution of powers for Panchayati Raj. That's your Panchayat as well as the Zillas. And the Zilla will be that uh, intermediary body which will be a facilitator to implement a lot of policies which do not come to the panchayat directly. All this while, I have seen that more focus has been only on uh, some infrastructure which is gifted through zillas to a village. But in the schedule of functions which are mentioned as per the Panchayat Raj Act, we see that there are different functions which, as Zilla, we could take. There is duplication of work happening between the Gram Panchayat and the Zilla Panchayat. I would want to be there and to start segregating this. So there is, say, the Zilla is given just waste management, and so that they can take care of the entire constituency, which is allotted to them. And the panchayat is relieved of waste management, and they could function more on the other functions which are stipulated. The 17th, the 73rd and the 74th amendment is still awaited to be implemented. The local MLAs or the current assembly, which only says time and again that they want to empower people, I would like them to take up this as a challenge that before the next elections in 2022, which they are soon going to face, they give us these powers for the grassroots so that we could function as as independent bodies. No doubt they are independent, but they are always given very minimal tasks to do. And all this is again controlled by the local MLA or the ruling parties.
Uh, I would like to add a point here because what happened is our NGO, which I'm a part of, we had fought a case wherein we got direction from the court to direct the government to in turn direct panchayats to start preparing their development plan. Now, what has happened is that because of this was happened in January, and because of COVID, things couldn't move. Although the panchayat director has sent notices, and many of the some of the villages in the interiors, that is the western eastern part of Goa, have done it. The Salset has not yet started. I'm not sure whether panchayats knew about it or because the notice should have reached the panchayats. But as of now, we don't need to depend on the MLAs to do it. So, because the process is already started. Now, the thing is, as a Zilla, to me, one of the duties would be to encourage the panchayats which fall under your constituency to push and expedite this process. It has to be done every year, and then the Zilla will collect all these village development plan and send it to the to the state. So yeah, so in that sense, do you think you would take up this responsibility, or do you how would you take up this responsibility of making sure that the villages that fall under your constituency would implement this, which is first a 5-year plan and then an annual plan every year? So, what is your views on that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. There was some disturbance, so I thought maybe I have got. In my last term, when I was in the panchayat, I have seen that it's only the member secretary of the Zilla Panchayats. They would be sending us the letter to prepare a plan, but there was no stringent law. There was no binding on the panchayats to compile and to send this data. Given an opportunity to be part of this forum in the Zilla Panchayats, I would like to take this responsibility very seriously, because planning the 5-year plans is something which helps us to understand what are our jobs as priority for the village, and how we can assign budgets too. And I feel that a continuous communication is required between the Zilla Parishad member or the Zilla member and the concerned panchayat. So until and unless there is a continuous follow-up done, we will never have the DPCs or the district planning, your VDC plans being submitted to the Zilla Panchayat, because only after the Zilla Panchayat also forwards their plans to the director would the annual budget for the panchayats also be prepared. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Because it's just not what the panchayat wants to prepare, but also what the state also has to make some allocations and approvals. So a continuous follow, probably in the.
So just to clarify the process, I mean, there is already a format in place which was formed in which was created in 2008, but it was never sent to the villages. It is already gazetted. The rules are already set in place, and even now in court also the director panchayat, in court the additional the AG did not tell the court that these rules are in place. So the judge had to ask them to prepare those rules. It was only later on, like when I found out that the rules were in place, because to go through a gazette, especially 10 years old, it's not easy. So the director of Panchayat themselves, the government themselves, didn't know the rules were in place, or they could be hiding it. Nonetheless, the format is very clear. There should be no interference on the government. Yeah, there should be. You can hear?
You can.
Hello? Can you hear?
Dev Surabhi?
Oh, okay. So as I was saying, there is no interference required from the government, except for if they want to give technical expertise, because certain things guidance is required. And after the plans go to the center, there's a state finance commission which has to look into all these plans and prepare a budget based on that. Now, unfortunately, our state finance commission also is defunct, so therefore I mean, we, when I say we, like, we are the progressive social participants in this democratic progress. We have like progressive ideology. We are not a left, like the left parties. We are not the right wing. So one thing expectation we have from future leaders like you, elected representatives like you, is that this process is implemented. Like, yeah, right from the state finance commission to the village level, because we are so dependent on the MLAs now. Even in your election, it looks like the MLA is contesting the election against you. I'm not saying you are, most, not you. You are not contesting against the MLA, but the MLA feels that he's contesting against you. So it's a referendum on him, which is also fair enough. I mean, when you put up when most MLAs put up puppets as candidates, then the onus comes on them. It's a referendum on them. So we don't expect these kind of policies to be implemented, or we don't expect their candidates to fight for them. But we do have a lot of expectations from you, which is one of the reasons we have invited you on this. And we are using, it's not to promote you as a candidate. I'm sure this won't influence voters. This video will not influence voters, because your voters have personal touch with you. But what it is to use this election to spread awareness about the issues which are discussing now and the next few topics. So that is the objective of this video. It is not to promote you. It's to promote the issues through candidates like you, who will, and hopefully
the issue very crucial to our village.
Yeah, we hope that the people are going to vote based on the candidates' stand on these issues, rather than which MLA is promoting them. They should vote on what is the candidate's stand on these issues. So, in short, I assume that you will fight for 73rd, 74th Amendment and not bow down to any present or future MLA in the next 5 years term.
Avinash, I am not an elected representative right now. I served in the 2012-2017 term, but I am still part of the Goa PRIs. I am still part of the Goa Forum, because I feel even if I was not a member, it's my duty to empower our grassroots. So come what may, my work to empower the grassroots for devolution of powers continues, come what may.
Okay, so moving, so the next question I would like to ask you is, what does coal and double tracking have to do with Banauli, and why is it so important to make this an election issue?
First and foremost, Banauli is a part of Goa. Banaulikars are Goans too. So when the double tracking is happening from MPT right up to Mole, through Mole and all the area, Western Ghats, it affects Banauli. It's all linked. You cannot isolate Banauli, it's not going through your village, so you shouldn't be involved. As a Goan, we need to stand together and to fight issues. This is a strategy which is done by politicians who want to divide us demographically, or maybe even by religion. So the moment you say you're from Banauli, it doesn't affect you, then you're separating, alienating our people. But does air has boundaries? It doesn't. And being a trained climate reality leader, which I did during the lockdown. Thankfully, the lockdown was a blessing in disguise, where after the elections were postponed and we were down here locked inside, I did this training, and it motivated me more to get involved into these issues. So when somebody says, or it could be the MLA says, like, no, coal and double tracking is not related to Benauli and cannot be a ZP issue, I think he should start reading about these topics and apply his mind, because what he has to know, that it is his constituency, and Benauli, Peda is a ward in Benauli through which the double tracks will be going. So coal is finally in Benauli. So I wish he thinks about it, and the people of Benauli also know that the tracks are very much in our village. No doubt it's on the boundary. And we all know that the coal dust flies within the range of 10 to 15 kilometers. So the entire village is covered. So how can you say that we shouldn't be fighting against double tracking? Why should we say? We have to.
Yeah.
Few days back, they saw that the tracks had coal, and they said, okay, it's just along the tracks. But what about the dust, which will travel and kill all of us? Vasco COVID cases we have all seen. That is because they already have the dump yards there, and that's why the spike or the rise in the deaths, because their health is already deteriorated. And with the transportation of coal increasing, to be increased in the near future, 136 million tons per annum, we are going to be finished. So Benauli is getting affected, and it concerns me.
Will it
We are
affect
going to.
tourism? Will it affect the tourism and fishing industry in Benauli? Because
Who would want to visit a black space, a black spot? Who would? What sort of tourism do we want to promote? Is this what is needed for Goa? This is destruction of Goa. If I relate to Benauli only, our tourism activities will be over. We are talking only about coal and double tracking. What about river nationalization? Isn't that affecting us?
I'll
With
come to
all
that.
these,
I'll come to river nationalization. But we are all curious. Why is your sitting MLA so supportive of this project when your people are not? So that's one of the questions that are there in people's minds. Why do you think that is?
obviously, he supports the BJP government. So whatever the BJP is for, he would be. And his statement where he says, "Am kazaite, am madia, tank zaite, tank warrior." This is a statement he has made outside the CM's office. He's on record. Was really absurd. How can an MLA make a statement? Then when the entire state, when the United Nations, all these people are asking for reduction of fossil fuel, we are trying to get in more, and our MLA is like, no, we'll get what we want for Goa, then let them take from where. But why do we want? Why can't he stress upon the government to start with renewable energy? We have such a big coastline in Benauli. Why can't?
So what you're saying is the MLA does not have any. MLA is not defending these projects because of local interest. I mean, is there at least one local interest because of which he's defending these projects? Because I have not heard a statement from him. And what does your opponent have to say regarding this?
I have never seen my opposition candidate and my colleague in the panchayat, Mr. Minino Fernandez, speak anything about this. Probably I have seen Hansel, my neighbor, he's my neighbor, the UP candidate, participate in some rallies and also in the Shandor thing. But finally, the MLA has his own say where he says, I support a government on issue basis. But when the entire state is objecting to coal, why is the MLA not standing with the people of Goa? Why is the MLA not standing with the villages of his constituency We might be talking about Benauli. Sarauli is affected. Isn't it his constituency? Kolva is getting affected. Mongol, no doubt, is not part of, but the village, the entry to these villages are going to get affected. So, what is the MLA stand? Is he scared of the government that is he scared? That's why he cannot take a proper stand.
So,
Yeah,
well,
I was waiting for his answers, but he will come and he'll give that Congress has started poll. He will only harp upon that.
one good thing is because the election cycles are so frequent, uh, people can, if at all they don't give answers, people can show their dissent through these votings. So we hope that this is one of the issue people vote on. Now, Dave, you want to ask anything regarding this issue? No, Dave, your audio is still not working.
No, I can't hear her. Maybe she
No, we
could
can't.
type
We
her.
can't. Yeah, yeah. Dave, you could type your this thing because
She
I
could
know
type her
technology.
question.
We we are having this because we are all learning this new world order that we are in, and so, anyways, the other issue that you are fighting on, and this is one thing that uh, your, I don't know whether he's your opponent or whether he just doesn't like you, Nilesh, a guy called Nilesh from your village, who's also a Punch member, and he said that you are just raising this issue because of ever since election, which is of double tracking. So, what do you have to say about that? I mean, why are you opposing double tracking? Why, how does it fit in this Zilla elections?
To my knowledge, and I was present for this Gram Sabha way back in 2016 when we had this proposal. We had a Gram Sabha proposal opposing coal transportation and river nationalization. It's since then when Mr. Nilesh Prabhudesai, he was the only person in the Gram Sabha. Remember, he was the only person present in the Gram Sabha of Benauli who opposed the entire Gram Sabha's resolution to stop double tracking and to object to river nationalization. According to him, coal was needed. He says it's not related to Benauli. We shouldn't be fighting. Later, in this tenure, when he is a elected Punch member of Benauli, again when the villagers have written to the panchayat, when the children of Benauli have written to the panchayat to request the state government to protect the Western Ghats, to stop double tracking, he is the only one who has proposed. In fact, I do not know how the rest of the body earlier agreed, but then there was a correction in their resolution also. He said that we need to call an environmentalist. He wanted to call an environmentalist who explain to the panchayat members whether there would be environmental destruction. A person who heads the Kana Benauli Biodiversity Committee makes such a statement. It was shocking. It was shocking when we know that the biodiversity of his own village is at risk. He takes a statement that environmentalists have to be called. Definitely, he has some personal grudge. That's why I have seen of late during very well timed defamation notices because I have made a statement against him. But it doesn't matter. Truth we all know, and the truth is he is not interested in protecting the biodiversity of Benauli. He is not interested in the people of Benauli. Had he been interested, by now the PBR should have been ready. We would have been
So
able to
your
fight.
biodiversity report is not yet prepared after, I mean, Benali being one of the highest education level constituencies, most vocal in terms of the Gram Sabha as well.
Gram Sabha.
Yeah. So what, I mean, it's there's no biodiversity report.
There's no biodiversity report as yet. No, none. In fact, I have asked under RTI from the panchayat from the secretary when the meetings were held, because I was part of the biodiversity committee when it was constituted somewhere in 2016 or 17. There was one person, Mr. Jose Rodriguez, who was appointed the chairman, but then probably he migrated and did not inform. And then in a particular meeting, Mr. Nilesh Prabhudesai got himself appointed. There were people who attended this meeting, were made members of the meeting of the biodiversity committee, and he made himself the chairman. Fair enough. But the old members were removed without any notice. There was no communication with us. And after that, whenever we have asked, we are on record where we have asked him, because of the Western bypass, we needed the PBR. The PBR was the People's Biodiversity Register, was a document, or would have been the greatest document to protect Benauli from the Western bypass on embankment. He assured us in the next 3 months, it was like years ago, it would be done. And then the entire year has passed, over a year, there is no sign of any PBR, no sign. So instead of helping the village fight the Western bypass issue, we are without any documents. You yourself know how we are fighting for the Western bypass.
What is the Western bypass issue? Just for the audience to know, what exactly is the issue, and why are you fighting against that? I mean, what are you fighting against? I know you're not fighting against the bypass itself, but what exactly are you fighting against?
The villagers of Benauli, right from 2015, have been demanding or requesting the state governments that we do not want the bypass on embankments. Embankments is like filling in the land, filling in the wetlands, filling in the water bodies. We have seen in Nuve,
like what is done in Nuve.
In Nuve, they have done the entire construction of roads through wetlands, or you can say marshy lands, which were earlier fields or water bodies, and this has disturbed the hydrology of the place. Even now, even today, if you visit the place, you will see water logging still happening. And even the construction is so shoddy. I cannot understand how people and the government accepts and makes payments to such contractors. We saw what was happening. We knew it would cause a disaster because Nuve never experienced flooding the way Benauli floods. The area through which this bypass is supposed to pass, right from Serauli, Mongol, and Benauli, are flood-prone areas. This I don't say just because I want. The disaster management plans of the government, those booklets which are there, documents which have taken under RTI, all state that Benauli, Todiaband area, Mongol area, Serauli area are flood-prone areas. Tomorrow, when there's going to be tons of earth dumped in this 2.75 kilometer stretch which is pending, where will the water go? Where would it go? So this is one of the reasons we knew that it would create more flooding for the land masses around this area. Besides, it would also destroy the biodiversity, the microorganisms which are living there. It would create an impact on climate change. Wetlands, which are supposed to be our carbon sinks, are planned or are on way to become carbon emitters. And climate change, besides, after COVID, I think climate change is the next threat the world is going to face. So considering all this, we have been fighting that it has to be on stilts. Minimum damage, sustainable development.
So what's interesting is that the Naveli, what's interesting that Naveli was given stills and Benauli area was not. So what was the reason behind that? I mean, the demand of the villagers of Naveli to build it on stills was granted, but somehow, although Benauli, it's the same stretch of the wetland, yet Naveli was denied the demand. Yeah. So what do you say about that?
I think it's the interest of the MLA which matters. If an MLA is interested in dredging the river, then his focus is to dredge. If you all have seen his interviews, he would only say, "Eh, dredging kela uda waitole." So he is game for it and get in salt water to our villages, to our groundwater. Probably somebody has to also explain to him that River Sal also has a peculiarity. It has tidal effects. And if the word Khareband also originates, is because Khare water or salty water reaches there. So this river has tidal effects. And when you dredge the river, it doesn't mean water just gets drained into it. Water from the sea, right from Betul or Mabor, wherever the water enters into Benauli till Khareband, we would be inviting salty water, sea water to come into our groundwaters, into the rivers. And this river is very much connected to the fields. So our agricultural lands would get destroyed. Our groundwater table also would get destroyed. Has he studied that? I doubt. So if he had to know
So
the impact of dredging, then definitely a wise man wouldn't make a decision about dredging and say, okay, still it's not required for Benauli.
So on one side, he is not ready to demand that the stills be built for this stretch of road. Uh, as far as what I know, the Navili MLA had written to the then CM and also to the central government, and that's how he was able to convince them to grant I mean, his demand for the stills. Whereas
Yes.
uh, this MLA, I mean, your MLA is very close to this current CM, but him not being able to get it is, is a big question mark here. And as you were saying, this desilting, which is another issue. So one thing I want people to understand is that the water in the Benauli area, the flooding that is happens in Benauli area, the actual water originates right from Welsound, uh, from the southern part of the Vasco Plateau, and flows through all that the entire stretch is a wetland, and
Entire stretch is a wetland.
the all that water right from Nuve, from
Okay.
Margaon, Patarda, from Dovali also comes to Benauli, and that is that the entire volume of water. It's too much for that, and because of filling that has happened, especially in the Margaon side of Kareband and all, the stretch of land in Benauli from where this water passes has narrowed down. So now, if you
Yes.
build the bypass, the what will happen is it'll like what we see in Nuwe today. We see a lot of, and that time I think Churchill himself was the PWD minister when the Nuwe
PWD
bypass
minister.
was with PWD minister when the bypass work had started. But
That's right.
yeah, but the amount of flooding that will happen will be overwhelming, and people of Benauli will have to be evacuated. They're already being evacuated even without the bypass. Am I
Even without
right?
the bypass. True.
Yeah. So once the bypass comes, they'll have to be evacuated, and especially what are the wards which are being affected right now?
The wards which are affected are Peda, then Rebod and Madar, which are all along the, you can say, the wetland where the entire bypass goes. People
So
have been
so
experiencing, children have, when we had this candlelight protest, we had children mentioned, pleading to the government that to not to have it on embankments, because even a child knows that water seeks its own level. The moment you dump in tons of earth over there, we are destroyed. Is this the planning which an MLA does for his constituency or for his voters, or a gift for voting him to power?
exactly,
Well,
and as
well,
you mentioned, sorry, go ahead.
if
Yes.
we are if we are to go by any of the the talents of the MLAs, the end result that we see around us is pretty self-explanatory. So we cannot expect much from them
Yeah.
in that sense, because I mean, when I'm listening to you guys talking, learning about studying the local topography, taking inputs from local panchayats, from the
Local.
Zilla Parishad, is very important for any development project that's coming up anywhere in the state, because it is those people who are living there locally who know the land in and out, and they know how the water flows, from where it comes, where are the springs, where is everything. So that is, I mean, in the essence, if I have to explain self-governance to people, local self-governance is important because of this very reason, because you need participation of people at the lowest level.
And the role of where a Zilla member comes in is when the neighboring village or a city like Margao is taking up project works without considering the effect on Banauli. So there have been projects in Margao city on the Karaban side. They just go on filling the low-lying areas, and the amount of area where water can collect is reduced.
Hmm.
And so the job of a Zilla member is to ensure that all the development works are they fit into each other's plan without destroying another village in the bargain. Same thing happened even in the Sanchora issue. Margao creates the garbage, but Raya suffers. If Raya had a good
Absolutely.
ZP candidate who could question the rationale of why do they have to take the brunt and they don't get to dump their garbage into Sanchoro. That's the funniest part.
That's
So
the
when
funniest
you,
part.
Absolutely.
so it's like we give the land to we give you for your whatever garbage, but we don't get to use it. So this is, I mean, even the Navili plant as well. I don't think Banauli gets to access the Navili plant, right? Although the sewage
No,
of
but
Navili plant
the sewage
gets into,
really comes into Riverside.
so you all don't get to say.
And if I may quickly interject over here and correct me if I'm wrong, because this is what I read, a ZP and Royla, God willing, if you are elected, actually a ZP is supposed to be at par with the local MLA, and that is the amount of power the Constitution, the 73rd and 74th Amendment, actually vests in a ZP who is elected. What do you have to say about this? Like, quickly, can you share some words about, you know, this whole phenomenon where you're supposed to be so powerful on paper, but you're not in
Do you think?
reality?
Do you think an MLA is more powerful or ZP is more powerful? So
No,
that is
they're
another
at
part of
par.
the, yeah.
I would say,
Good one.
to your question now, I can say that this is the reason, this is the very reason why the local MLA is contesting the ZP election. Yes, he is contesting. I could show you if we had to record. He actually made announcements in the village that vote for Churchill Alema. Trust me. This, yes, this is true. When the vehicles used to go way back in March, it was like, no, vote for NCP, vote for Churchill Alema. He knows that when the forums will fight for its powers, we will get it, and then his powers would be curtailed, which he's been trying to do all these years, and forgetting that he is he is in the legislature to frame laws and not to meddle in panchayat affairs. He knows when the ZPs come in full force with their powers, they would be nowhere. We require people who can
Absolutely.
make laws, propose bills which are benefiting to the society. Not here to inaugurate roads and some drainage connections and some electricity poles. That's not his job. Their job is much more. They can't do
Uh,
it.
co-
That's why they can't.
Coming back to Sal, is it being desilted or is it being dredged? Because there's a confusion there. A lot of people don't know what is desilting and dredging and whether Sal is being desilted or dredged. So could you
At,
clarify on
at,
that?
the, at the moment, the current proposal or the work which is going on in Odling. In fact, today also they had taken up the work. Yesterday, the locals of Shishini had objected to it, and they are trying to dredge the river, not desilt. In fact, there is no EIA also prepared. They have not even planned the way the work has to be executed. The current work going on in the river will destroy the banks of the river. We are at threat. Our entire village boundaries might reach into the river Sal. We
So
want
what you're
the water
saying
resource.
is, so what you're saying, dredging, because it is digging the bank of the river, they are deepening
Yes,
the river, so the banks will destabilize. Do people
will
know, and
this
especially do people of Benauli know that this is going to happen to in the village?
the people of Karmana, the people of Orli and Kavalasi are very much aware of this, and we have the Save River Sal Front, which takes lead in this. Besides the Karmana Civic Forum, also they are very much active in these issues, and we have assured through Gointho Equot, the organization which I am also part of, that whenever required, we would be standing up with them to take this matter ahead.
So just to clarify, what is your stand? Are you for silting, desilting, or dredging, or are you against desilting or dredging?
Desilting is required and probably dredging only if proper studies are done, not the entire set. Because my friend Mr. Roy Barreto from Kavelosi, who is into this business also, of he's got his own speedboat, and so they do experience a lot of problem because of the sandbars which uh, have occurred because of the way the sea movement of the sea. So it affects the trawlers in some cases, but we require studies to locate where it is and not dredge the river for the speedy movement of vessels, which an advertisement was published in the newspapers few months ago. And what we see is this is not in the interest of local fishermen or locals who are operating their businesses of fishing in that area, but this could be part of a bigger plan to move casinos into the river style at the mouth of the river. So we are
Okay.
definitely not for dredging to get in to
But
shift the.
what are your thoughts for transportation of passengers? I mean, people who want to travel from Kavelosin to, say, Navili. So I think that was one of the proposals put forth to make it a navigable channel for passenger traffic. What are your thoughts on that?
We already have bridges built across this. There is in Telauli and Varka. There is already at Kavelosi to Veli side. There is Asolna. It's already being done there. And besides, there's an incomplete bridge which is already in place in close to Benauli. So when we have so many modes of transport, why would people want to go? Because if you see, if somebody wants to travel across, then what is the public transport at that point? Is there any public transport coming to pick them up across the river? No. So I don't think so we require anything over there. Let it be for our fishing community. It will serve purpose. It will be a beautiful place for the breeding ground uh, for the fishermen for their crops.
The another issue that was there recently in the news is regarding the in principle approval granted for the to declare the road from Wellsound to Kavelosi as a national highway. It's the in principle approval was granted 4 years back, and recently we had a Supreme Court order. Yeah, Supreme Court order, which states that the government is free to declare any route as a national highway. So, what do you have to say about that? I mean, with respect to Benauli, what is going to be the impact, and what will you do as a ZP member to address this issue?
If I may recall, it's way back in 2016 when this news article, I saw it on the Navin Times about this in principle approval of the MDR from Belsound to Kavelosi or the Mobor at Lilas. And we wrote to I've written to the Sarpanch, who in turn made a letter to the collector. And that was in the I think for 2017. That was somewhere in March, just before the end of my tenure. Later, there was no follow-up done by the Panchayat with regard, because we wanted to know the details. Till date, they haven't seen. But in the government's Bharatmala it's in the Bharatmala that it's already been identified and
Notified.
a
It's
road
already been granted in principle approval.
granted in principle. And also they have even mentioned that if they want acquisition of land on either sides, it would be done by the government. So
What is the
Banauli
width
is
of
at
the? What is the width? What is the exact width, and how many houses you estimate will go in that whole? What
I,
is the width of the?
uh,
It,
if I'm
it's
not wrong, it is, I think it's 40 meters from the center of the road on either side. That total 80 meters width. And what I
okay.
see, this is part of, uh, if I if we see this road starting from Wellsound till Mobor, 40 meters in certain places in Kavelosi will reach the um, the River Sal. So there is a direct connection between River Sal and the MDR. So, and it's according to nationalization of rivers, the appurtenant land also can be acquired. So I see that then the whole land belongs to the central government. So it's direct access from, so the casinos are coming to Kavelosi, to Mabor, and their customers fly down to Daboli and they drive straight to the casino here. So that's like an open plain which is made for them. On either side, land is acquired through river nationalization as well as through the Bharatmala
I think
for the
there
destruction of my
was,
village.
just to give you this of casinos, but you obviously know it very well that there was a casino in your area, and most of the money that was burnt by people in the casino was done by our Goans themselves. They used to come blow up the money. That time mining boom was there. So any sort of casinos in your villages is going to destroy the home, destroy families within your own village. So it's not just the tourist you're talking about. And another, just a couple of more issues I would want to touch on, because these are issues you have taken them quite head on. One is the Benoli hatcheries, the BFDA, brackish water, brackish, yeah, I can never remember that full form, but basically it was set up in order to promote prawn farming and fisheries department. So what happened was, the information that I had got that time, it was sabotaged, because this your sitting MLA's own brother wanted to set up what was that, aquarium or something there, a massive tourist spot, and it was sabotaged by by destroying the generator, not getting it fixed. All the fish, all the hatchlings died, and eventually it was shut down. It was, people were moved to people who are experts in all this in the field of fish hatcheries. They were moved to collectorate and all. So now what do they want to do with that, and what do the villagers say?
It was shocking. It was a news, like they had this ad in the newspaper that they want to give it for PPP. That's the greatest term which is being used in Goa. Everything is on private public partnership. I'm wondering the day would come soon, maybe very soon, when the state government also will be on PPP or is already there. So
Yeah, you
where
don't
it's not a
give
people's
away your
participation.
family. You don't give away family jewels, and even your children along free with that, and then call it a PPP. It's like that. So
So here in Banauli, they wanted to set up this proposal as PPP, where they are planning for a fish fin hatchery there. And the estimated that they have given, the infrastructure should be at around 3 crores,
okay.
which whichever private firm wants to invest, they could. When we saw this, I wrote to the panchayat that we need to look into this matter, because no doubt it's acquired by the government, it belongs to the fisheries department. But why a infrastructure which was built for Goa should go on PPP? The infrastructure was for the locals of this state, so that we could benefit. And
And it was
PPP
profit
would be,
making. It was
it
profit
was a
making
profit
earlier,
making,
right?
most profit making. The location is ideal. I know earlier some fishermen, they did have some issues because their nets used to get entangled into the pipe which used to release for the intake and outtake of the water which was used at the hatchery. But now technology has changed, times have changed, and we definitely can work on things where we can protect the interest of the fishermen or the ramponkars, and at the same time use the same space for locals. We gave a proposal to the fisheries minister, to the director of fisheries, Mrs. Dr. Sharmila Montero too. Till date, no reply. But we gave a proposal where the panchayat could form a cooperative with the villages, involve the local fishermen, involve the youth. And this during this pandemic, we had a lot of people who have been rendered jobless. So had we to have a community, an organization which could take up this, why give it to an outsider when the village itself could take it up as an Atmanirbhar project? The Prime Minister keeps stating that we want an Atmanirbhar project. So make us Atmanirbhar, give it to us. Let the
Yeah.
property remain with you, but give it to the villagers through the panchayat. It won't be owned by somebody else. It will be owned by the state government, but run by the panchayat along with this cooperative. And I think that was one of the best proposals which we have given them, where we could involve a local voice, have a training institute. It was all given there, but then the government is interested in profits at any
Absolutely.
cost.
And no,
I
it's not
would-
just interest in profit. It's not. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
I would like to just interject and say it's not just the three P's. I would like to add a fourth P, which is the parasitic public-private partnership, because it's destroying the people. Avinash, go ahead.
Yeah, it's absolutely a parasitic thing because the public doesn't get anything out of it. You look at Mopa Airport also is PPP. Some of this the MPT, all scroll projects are PPP. But the public only pays the cost and gets no benefit out of it. And that Atmanirbhar thing, in the US, when slavery was just being abolished, there was slaves were allowed in theory to be free, but they had no right to vote. They would have no business. They could not start a business. They could not buy land. So they would prefer to be with their master itself. So the Atmanirbhar is something like that, wherein you are given freedom as long as your freedom is within that four walls of the slave room that is given to you. Swaraj is not being given to us. We are asking for Swaraj. With Swaraj, Atmanirbhar comes automatically. But they don't. Yeah. So that's a difference. I mean,
Can they? So automatically we will be Atmanirbhar, and
yeah.
that is what
But
we are waiting for.
hopefully now, because of courts, it is there. The power is already there. Now it's the responsibility of the villages and the district panchayats to reach out and grab that power. Because if the MLA decide or the government decides to sabotage it, a contempt petition is easy to file. In fact, already we have sent notices to a few villages, including Benauli, for contempt, and we're just waiting because we don't want them to use the excuse that because of COVID things could not happen and all that. But having said that, fisheries, this hatchery project is absolutely essential. The workers that I have spoken to, can you hear me? Yeah,
Yes, I
workers
can.
workers that I have spoken to, who are working in the collectorate, they are ever ready to come back and continue operations, and they are very motivated, because after all, it was a profit-making entity, and community way is the only way, because that is the way to protect the local fishing community. You think your PPP will be restricted to BFDA? I would like to, through this platform, to tell everybody that once this is given, the second thing the corporates will come for is commercial fishing. With commercial fishing, they will destroy your Raponkars businesses, because already there is a proposal for private jetties.
Private jetties.
So for whom are these private jetties? These private jetties are for private enterprises, private corporates. We already know how the fish mafia in Goa, which is another big corporate, is controlling the fish prices. So this is just going to be worse. The situation is going to be worse, and they're going to come for the livelihood of the first the trawlers, which are using the Kudwan jetty, and then they're going to come after the livelihood of the Raponkars. And your fishery, this hatcheries project is one of the things that can stop it, because the more local people get involved in fishing, if there's a college setup, I'm not saying a 3 years college, but at least a 6 months or a year college for people who want to learn the trade and the skills, then it will go a long way in protecting the community and the vocation of fishing. So
Yes.
that's, yeah. You want to add anything, Royla, before we go on to the next, and Dave also?
Royla, go ahead.
You can.
Okay,
Being
so
being a coastal
yes.
village, one last statement is that in my ZP manifesto also is revival of farming, that is also fish farming, which can be done even in the fields. So we can utilize spaces which are lying idle. Community farming for agriculture, yes, fine. But we could get, because fishing is one occupation which is very lucrative, and why not our locals get into it? So
Absolutely.
being a village which has the Wadi area with a fishing community, we have to maintain that identity and promote independence, financial independence, not just depend on the ocean or the sea, but we can harvest it on land too. So we can work out, and I would enjoy working in all these avenues to make my village self-sufficient.
Yeah, absolutely. Because unlike cooperative is very important in fishing, because the investment for a private person, individual, to make in fishing as opposed to normal agriculture, it's too high. There's a lot of equipment required, and there's a lot of risk involved, and common people cannot get into it. But if it is a cooperative, they can take it up, and if it's like Amul is a cooperative, so it's a
Cooperative.
milk cooperative. So on those
Yes.
lines, it'll create a lot of jobs for locals, especially. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So one last topic. I don't think blue flag affects you. Also, I won't go. Does blue flag affect you in Benauli, or is it only
It
Kolva?
does. No,
Uh,
Blue Flag, Benoli village, Mobor are a few villages which are already, besides Kolva, which has the Blue Flag certification. So
so
it's like
I would want.
privatization again
Okay. So do you have the
on its
time? I
way.
just want to. I want your views on that. Are you
I am a bit running short on time because
okay?
tomorrow
Okay.
is
Fine. So
election and we are just
okay.
having a
So yeah. So if you just want to conclude on this blue flag, good, bad, is it required for a village? And given that y'all can, if y'all can plan your village yourself, does the state or does the center have to get involved in planning your beaches? So just with that, we'll end it.
I think planning of the village should remain with the villages, and but definitely with the expertise and knowledge of the state authorities. Not all of us are well equipped to plan the entire village, but there are agencies in our own state which can help us. So, but the central government need not get involved because of this blue flag certification. Why should a company from Netherlands come and dictate terms to our village? Yes, amenities, infrastructure is required for every village, but at the same time, authority or control over your village, over your beach, over your coastline should remain. And I will get back again to the major ports bill. We need to get rid of the major ports bill, or again the entire control will be with the MPT. It won't be with the state.
With this blue flag, the recommendations are good, but I don't think it needs to be enforced the way it is. Uh, Spain has the highest number of blue flag certified beaches, but all those beaches are not up to the mark. There's scientific studies being done on that. So yes, finally the solution is always, if you can prepare, if you manage to prepare, help villages to prepare their development plans, and if the district prepares its development plans, all the attacks, whether it's major boat bill or whether it's highways or any other project, if it goes against the district development plan, it will not have a chance in court. It most likely will be struck down. That is why it is so important that we have candidates like you who will fight and fight against people who are against the 73rd Amendment, and who will fight for preparing the village and the district development plans. I hope we have this commitment from you, and you are able to convince other uh, candidates and other, if you win with your colleagues in the future, to create this plan together as a panchayat body, not on party lines, because panchayat, the district panchayat was supposed to always be a panchayat body, and I hope you can come. You will come together as a body and prepare the district development plan. Do we have this assurance from you?
Yes, definitely. I would also like to add that no doubt I am contesting as a Congress candidate, but the moment we are elected, I feel we work for Goa. So, leaving aside all political differences, our only aim has to be safety and security of the little Goa we have, which has blessed us with so much of wealth, which we are enjoying, and we hope to maintain this for the future generations to come. That is the final goal.
Absolutely. So, Avinash, I'll conclude for our
Yes,
viewers.
yes, please.
Absolutely.
Yes,
So
go
thank
ahead.
you so much. Architect Royla Fernandez joined us today for a little, but an hour-long tete-a-tete and a conversation about what she stands for, what is her ideology, and she answered a lot of questions with a lot of frankness and completely head-on. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen today and you want more of such content, please do like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. And before we go, Royla, I must congratulate you. It is an absolute pleasure to actually have this conversation with you today because you are somebody as a candidate who gives people like me hope that there is a future in politics and that there is change coming because you're so good.
I only pray that my people give me this opportunity. They trust, I hope they can trust that I will not let them down. And I assure you, I will live up to the expectations until the last, strive to get the 73rd and 74th Amendment in place for Goa.
Absolutely. And with that
Thank you so
promise,
much.
we sign
Yeah,
off.
go
This
ahead.
was Goa Story for you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.